Hey guys, I'm Mr. Genie here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Extraction 2. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, chill, and all that cool stuff. And chilling will be reminded to the end of the review. With all that out of the way, let's get into Extraction 2. So I had seen the trailers for this pop up a few times now, so I decided to give it a watch, and accidentally speaking, I have forgone my notes for this one, so this should be a fascinating little pick of the this has happened again to me situations where I have to memorize what happened in the movie, on top of the fact that it's been a while since the movie's been out now, so all that suffice to say is, whoops, missed the ball on that one. Anyway, the other notable thing is, like, just on a side note or side tangent or whatever you want to call it, it is pretty cool to see Mr. Hemsworth on another project that isn't Thor related, especially after the latest Thor outing, that being Love and Thunder, I believe, was the latest one. And you know, that one was among the ones that killed his character, if he wasn't already quote-unquote dead as a character by that point. It's hard to keep track of what characters are even remotely alive in Marvel anymore, to be quite frank, so apologies if I'm having trouble remembering which characters are still intact in the Marvel universe. Anyways, it's cool to see actors get to, you know, continue to work on stuff when they had, you know, such a shitty thing like that, you know, happen. Anywho, in this movie, we once again follow right where the last movie left off, in fact, and yes, I have seen Extraction 1. I have not reviewed it officially, but I would give that movie a solid 7 out of 10, just in case anyone's curious. But we leave off where we left off, where we see that he was shot on this bridge after, well, the extraction in the literal sense, the first one anyway. And we see him additionally fall into the water, and then cut to him at the hospital. And of course they have to rush to take care of him, and he manages to pull through. So yeah, pretty crazy circumstances to live by, but you know, definitely not the craziest I've heard lived by in real life, so you know, I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for this opening that he survived this shot. So yeah, we continue to follow his character, Mr. Rake, as he's going through physical therapy, that being rebuilding his muscles, something I'm all too familiar with myself, and so on and so forth. And after X amount of time has passed, they move him up to this empty, you know, or like pretty much like in the forest, like resided place where he can go to, like, essentially retire, or the equivalent of what he thought was going to be a retiring. That is, until he finds out his ex-girlfriend's sister has been swept up in this huge organization whose name I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. See, there's the memorization already kicking in, and if I had my notes I would have written it down. So there's that. But the point is that this group is just your bad generic drug cartel. That's as much as I can remember from this group. And they're pushing their drug cartel and so on and so forth, and they're pretty big. They essentially own the city through their drug cartelling, so on and so forth. So the stakes are pretty, getting in seems to be like this big ordeal. But he is on a more personal mission, to again save this woman he knows personally. And the team eventually are in tow with him on this mission. And for the most part, the essential mission goes on without a hitch. Well, with a few bumps along the way. They manage to get into the prison pretty effortlessly, or close to. Escaping is the harder part as things start to go awry. They even get not get captured, but they get spotted from a distance. I forget how exactly the setup is done, but you know, point being is that their escape has now just been made a lot more harder. So as they're moving about, we're seeing that he's trying to, in this movie, extract 3 people, not just this woman he knows, but the woman has a younger daughter and a older son. And the older son seems to be already indoctrinated by this group. Lo and behold, that will come into the plot a little bit later on, as we'll see. But currently they're trying to move these individuals, and they manage to successfully move them to this large hotel area. Here we see where that indoctrination, and to put it in other words, how about this for words? Grooming. He was groomed to be a soldier in this, in this thought sort of, way. So much so that he contacts his uncle, who's a part of this organization, in which he gives the location, so now they all know to go there, and lo and behold, not too long after, the enemies show up, and our allies are now pinned in this area under heavy fire. And there are some funky parts in this movie I won't deny, like, for example, you clearly see the men moving in with their guns, and you see, like, people casually walking past them. It's like, did those people just not see the guns? Like, what is happening? So yeah, this movie is a little bit harder to, like, at this point, swallow. There are even some harsher cuts and a little bit more of a shakiness to the action here this time around. So there are already little bumps and bruises that do hurt the film on, more so I guess I would call this a logistics level of, like, yeah, I'm not sure people would reasonably just ignore people, like, carrying guns into an area. I'm pretty sure people would spot that and freak out initially. And it's only until the guns start opening fire that people actually start to begin to freaking out, which is a lot later, or, good, I want to say 5 to 10 minutes later on in the sequence here at this large hotel area. So, they're having trouble, they're getting pinned down. One of Rake's allies, I forget his name. He's like the brother of the woman who's like also working with them, dies due to this action sequence. He's like fighting them off, and he like gets killed by behind. So she's distraught, and Rake feels responsible. He tries to take on the main guy on like the roof or whatever. And so after like saving himself and barely escaping through the rooftop, because the bad guys came in through the helicopter, so the allies take one of the said helicopters away from this sequence to move to a different location, which is like Rake's hideout, I guess I'll call it, where he reunites the sisters. However, the son has reunited with the enemies, aka he is so fallen into the indoctrination that he, when given the chance, he just walks over there instead. So now that he's saved the woman and the girl. He's gonna go back to save the kid from his own, ignorance is the best way I can put this, because he's young. So yes, Rake goes and gets the location from the main bad guy, who sets him up in this location. He preps up for his final battle, in which the woman joins in eventually, his other ally. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be like a couple in this, like the current couple. I'm not really sure. They like play off of each other like they're not trying to be a thing, but there's clearly some tension, question mark? I don't know. Anyway, point being that he gets there, he blows up all the vehicles so that they can't escape, so on and so forth. The son is set up as a bomb, just showing the uncle's desperation to get out of this situation, and with the combined efforts of both Rake and Lady, they manage to distract them long enough to get the son off of the bomb harness vest, and make sure that the uncle is dealt with once and for all. And he is indeed dealt with once and for all, getting shot right in the head. So, the son is safely also extracted, making it 3 for 3 in terms of who they were trying to save, though we lost one along the way in terms of our allies. And it seems like they're trying to set up a third one here, as I'm not sure why this is set up this way, but Rake and his partner are arrested. I'm not sure why it's set up this way again. But they are brought to the guy who told them about this job in general, who is Idris Elba, the actor, who essentially tells them that there's this new mission, and you're gonna beat this boss person, and blah blah blah. Movie setup sequel, Extraction 3, I guess. So yeah, that's essentially Extraction 2, though. And, there's like a wonky part in the middle. It's not too bad, I suppose. It's a little silly. Some camera work that could have been improved upon. Again, there's a little bit more shakiness here than I can recall from the first movie. This tends to happen in smaller scenes, like when they're in compound and like tunnels, or just tighter spaces in general. So yeah, there's definitely a few things, and for an action-oriented film, that's something you definitely want to avoid, considering high octane, what I would consider high octane action, is being able to visibly see everything that is happening without the sense of, like, there's all this distraction and shaky cam, and, the shaky cam serves no other purpose than to just hide stuff. Hide, how much you're actually trying to hide. Unless it's like a found, there are ways around doing it that way, of course. I'm not saying that that's always a bad thing. Like, found footage films tend to use shaky cam, and that makes a lot more sense, because the person's holding the camera and running, so they're more likely to be shaking while they're moving, obviously. So there's stuff like that where it's more justified. But here, since we're following these characters, you would want to make sure that your camera is fixed, that you can clearly see the action through and through. Like, even with these close-up shots of, like, see this close quarters combat action that happens from time to time in the movie, just making sure you really hit all those notes and hit them all sufficiently to be like, yep, that was high-octane action, and You know, they weren't trying to sneak away anything or, like, cheat in any sort of sense either. So, yeah, I'd probably either give this, like, the same around, like, a 6 or 7 out of 10. Only way I would lean a little bit closer to that 6 is, again, from more of that shakiness. And again, it's not too much of a distraction and then some of the goofiness, as I mentioned. But that, I would also say, is a minor issue, but it's still an issue. So yeah, overall, still pretty good movie, I would say, though. And yeah, obviously with less notes in my stuff, this is going to end up being a shorter review. Shocker. Anyway, that is my review for Extraction 2. If you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out small YouTubers, second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server, you can join, collab, and chill, and do all that cool stuff. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye!